G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I don't really have a name for this yet. I'll probably have a name figured out by the time I upload this video. But profile moons, is that appropriate? I'm going to draw these moons today. These, actually there's two different kind of versions. They're stacked, maybe stacked moons, stacked profile moons. It's exactly what we're drawing. Me. You can join along if you want. I'm going to be talking myself through it, but like I said before, with these kind of the extra mile Halloworkshop type YouTube videos, they're not really tutorials, but if you want to follow along, please do. I'm not trying to teach, but I just feel like it's kind of playtime. There are lessons that didn't make the cut. But if you want to do them and you're in the Halloworkshop, please push yourself the extra mile. And if you're just here for some fun time, hopefully we can have a good time together today. I've got my big journal here. I've got some waterproof pens. I actually don't think I'll end up doing... You know what? That's not true. I'm going to use a non-waterproof pen, so I don't think it really matters. Where is that pen, actually? My fave little teeny tiny pen. Here it is. The Muji Gel Ink 0.25. Super fine, but I really love it for all these cross-hatchy details. This has got 3 moons stacked in there. This has got 2 moons stacked in there. I think this one was kind of better because it... when they're at the bottom, the stars had a lot longer to go. So I'm gonna blend the two of these together. But I am starting with my biggest moon in a big C shape, just like that, and then bringing it in. It gets a nose. I don't really mind how the nose looks. Curve it through, top lip, bottom lip, and then all together. And I think I'll just do the stack. I might just do 2. I kind of like 2. 3 was a little bit too much. The other moon got too small. But this one can go a little bit more angled upways. Ski slope out, bring it in, little curve, bring a curve in, jump up onto that lip a little bit. There we go. Just some really aggressive profiles. And then it's all decorative from there. I'm going to do the features kind of big with this big 0.5 Unipin fine line. I always like to start with the nostril. I don't know why. Color that in. Put it kind of where this nook of the nose forms. A little hook bracket around that. Sometimes I'll draw the top lip in. It's oddly straight on a profile. And so is the bottom lip. And then I usually add a little extra shadow underneath. I'm not doing anything too neat. I like the sketchy quality of this and how, the kind of wonkiness to it. So I don't want crazy sketchy lines. I really want to commit to being a one-stroke attempt, but I do want it to be wonky all the same. A long straight edge for the eye, and then almost like half a leaf at the bottom. There we go, put some pupil iris action in there. I'm giving it some curly whirly lashes, especially on the outside as well. I like to put a little dot, like a little ball at the end of the lash, just to kind of accentuate it. I think it looks extra magical. And just a bunch. They should look a little wayward. Love that. I like to put this straight edge down the nose as well for the nose ridge. And then hook that top eye part down with a scribbled brow. These brows I've made kind of wonky, loopy, like they kind of travel down and up. A little bit inquisitive, a little bit furrowed. All right. Oh, a cheek. I put a cheek on. I don't usually do that, but this crescent moon shape for the cheek around here I liked. And I'm going to bring it in, swirl it in as well. All the details on this are very swirly curly cues. Very whimsical. Nighttime magic. And then I think the rest is all just decorative now. Did I do both? Yeah, I did both. I thought I hadn't been doing this one the whole time. I just looked over here, I checked, and it's done. Who knew? I think I'm going to copy actually exactly how all of these turned out, because I really did like these. I might put that double line feature, those train tracks on there for the hat. And then this one had hair that swirled around. I think I want to use a smaller pen for all these details, so maybe I'll just switch pens now. Oh, it's got a mustache, this one. That one I would do in an older pen. Just wisp some hairs around and then curl them together. I even put a bit down here on the bottom too, but I think I might have this one go out, this goatee. If you can hear someone in the background, that's Steve. He's home for a little bit and then he's got to go work. All right, now I've got this pen. The difference in pen size here is not as drastic because it's a lot smaller of an image, but a 0.5 to a 0.25, you will notice the difference here a little bit more intensely. So when you look at your pictures and you think, why does that look different? If you've changed the size and you've used the same type of pens, or you haven't adjusted for inflation, you haven't accounted for the fact that, you know, things that are small on a smaller page look even tinier on a bigger page. It's usually that. And it's relative too. That relative sizing. So I don't think there's any problem with it, but you know, you get on a bigger page, you can draw a whole lot more lines than you can draw on a teeny tinier edge down here. So it'll look different for sure. I'm just going to bounce around between them. I like this curly swirly. I even put some of this hair off here as well. A lot of these curls just are S shapes that loop back around on themselves, and I give them extra little lines, usually in the curve. So I'll curve something around and then I'll put a bunch, 2 or 3 extra lines in that curve just to fill it out. But I do like how they all look tousled together and all stacked together. They don't really cross over one another, but they all fill the space. I find that very relaxing, very flow state inducing. I think I talked about that last time on my last YouTube video. And I guess it makes sense. A lot of the stuff that I end up enjoying and liking are the types and styles of illustrations and art journaling and painting that do induce that kind of calm, relaxing, meditative flow state. I don't mean to, like, it's not something I set out to do, but I guess that's just natural, right? Oh, I'm gonna put my, I'm gonna put some zigzags at the top for some string. And then I've got to put my stars on. This one, I like them to drop straight from the edge. So you got to line it up with the edge of the page so that it looks like there's some gravity to it pulling it down. Even though ironically in space there isn't any gravity, so it could just be going anywhere. But I hate space, so let's pretend these are here on Earth. There's some string. I should have used the thinner pen. That would have looked better. Very stick figure star. That one's going to be a 5-point star. This one's going to be a 6-point star. Cat's eye. My fave. I love how it's not even attached to the string. It's not even attached at all. Goodness. Oh well. I will put a heart shape with some loopy bows. That is so crazy that that's not even attached. Whatever. Doesn't have to be. So this one's not even attached either. Where have I gone? All right. Do you know, before I go on, actually, I'm going to use this circle stencil and put these kind of glow lines on. I use the stencil because then I can just butt my pen up to it and put these little dashes. I try to angle the pen so at 9 o'clock I'm going horizontal, 3 o'clock I'm going horizontal, 12 o'clock is vertical, 6 o'clock, like on a clock, is vertical, and then all these ones in between, they radiate out, so they should be on a diagonal. If you think of every line traveling back into the middle of the star, you'll get the right angle. But if you use the stencil, then when you remove it, it's all there, it's all good. Sometimes I'll fix up just a few little areas if I don't like it. And then I need a bigger one because that is too small. Here's my other one. This is a Fisker's one. Listen to that chair. Don't worry, guys. I put a chair on my Christmas wish list, so here's hoping Steve will get me that. this one on here. I've had this chair for so long, actually. I think since 2018, maybe 2019. I think 2018. The back doesn't even stay up anymore. Like it might as well just be a stool. There's no support. When I'm sitting on it, I can feel every bolt, every every piece of padding that's come loose. And the cats used it as their sleeping bed for a long time, so she's really chewed it up, poor Bianca. There we go. Some lovely line work there. I just love a sketchy pen. Let's go back to this area over here. Sometimes I work left to right just so I can see what's going on. I'm putting big circles. The bigger the circle, the easier this next part. Not that I'm going for easy, but on a video, I don't like to give you too many long, boring, same experiences. That's why I don't journal on video, unless I've sped it up to 200,000 times speed. But now I'm going to choose a few of these circles and I'm going to put rings around them, concentric rings. And then once I hit another circle, I'm just going to keep those lines going until I hit another circle. Then I'm going to keep those lines going until I hit another circle. Then I'm going to keep those lines going. Do you see what I mean? So now it's kind of taken its path all the way to the edge. And I can do that up here too. I can keep these concentric lines going until I hit this circle up here. But also there's still some space in here. So I'm going to keep going around. And then I might end up joining these two with a bit more of a, like a bump, kind of a curve. You get this topographical contour line look that I just think is really interesting. And it all just depends on which circle you start around and how big and how small some of them are. As long as you just keep them kind of equidistant, it'll all be great. You can keep going from there and just chase that same set of lines around the entire thing, or you can choose another one to start concentric circles around and find where they meet, because they will eventually meet up. But don't be afraid to change directions as well. They don't all have to go the same way. But this gives very Starry Night, which I like. Switch that direction up there. This is only a semicircle, but I'm still going to do that concentric circle lines to switch it all up. Do them around this little one as well. And that is just a lovely pattern. I might end up doing some more patterning in there, I'm not quite sure just yet. But speaking of concentric circles, I'm going to start pretty small in this corner here and loop that around. I'm going to do a bunch of these loops for some hair. Hair or hair detail. A lot of the time I'll draw something in that is supposed to seem like hair, but it's not actually. Go. I like that. Let's put some cross hatching on. I usually start with the nose. I go from the tip all the way down to that kind of, what do you call that? Nostril? Nostril. And then I like a diagonal flick just because that's what feels natural to my wrist. And then I'll go from the corner of the nostril as well. It changes. There's actually no realism to the way that I put these shadows on, but I put a triangle on the nose ridge. It's very loosely based in realism, I should say that. And then I've been doing these collection of dots in some shadow areas as well, like just around the corner of the nose where that nose nostril kind of hits that nose ridge. I put a bunch in there. I wanted to put a bunch of hatching lines that followed that cheek out to the edge as well. Almost like that radial starburst, but it's more of a shadow thing over here on the cheek. And then down here, some more of those collections of dots. They're all different sizes. I usually start with like a bigger one and then fade them out from there. So I'll start kind of in this widest area of the loop, the spiral, and then I'll slowly graduate smaller dots out. It's like the first few I might actually draw as little circles, and then they'll just dissipate into literal pinpoint dots. I'm going to put some lines on the lips. A moment on the lips. A lifetime on the hips. Do you remember that saying? I haven't heard people say that in ages. I think we got rid of that saying. And then I've got to put some more curly swirlies on this one, because this one is more of an actual hairline, and I like these curls to come all the way down. I love that 1920s effect where it's very flat edges, two-dimensional, but you've got all those Marcel waves. I mean, these literally look like waves, so it always gives me a bit of 1920s, which I love. Erte, love that. All right, what else have I got going on here? I've already kind of done my lashes. Maybe I'll do another couple just a lot smaller with this thinner pen. You can really see the contrast between how thick that other pen is next to this one. I don't mind if some things cross over another, that's fine. I'll put a bit of a circle around the top edge of the eye. I want to put a shadow in that socket, in that crease, to hollow out the eye a little bit. So I'll get my diagonal sketchy hatching lines in there. Again, subtly based in realism, but not really. And what else have I got? I think that's it. I put a 6-point star in the corner of this one's mouth for some reason. Just felt like it. And this one got one down here. Just a little bonus feature, I guess. This has a couple of necklaces with stars and beads. Some celestial crafts happened at some point, I guess. I love a thin choker. That's something I feel like I've done ever since I started art journaling. I always put these wispy little chokers on. And then I'm going to start with this one over here. This one's got, I'm going to twist my book. This one has lines that run all the way down. It's kind of like a ribbed sweater. I tried to keep them close together, but I did a better job when it was smaller. Sometimes I don't have the control that I have when I'm working really small, because I'm used to working, with this wrist action that only extends to a point, and then when I actually have to drag it further, I lose all that control that I've built up over the years. But it's fine, because I want this lines in first, and then I want to double up the lines in a stripes pattern. So it'll look like it's got that ribbing, but then the ribbing will look striped. So instead of coloring in the stripes, we just double up the line work, and that gives it that effect. There we go. I might end up coming back in with that 0.5 pen again and just adding in some depth in certain places, because the contrast is very stark. Like these big, bold, heavier areas just seem so much bolder than the rest, which is fine. I'm going to put some of those collections of circles in the middle of my star, like I was saying before. A few circles in the middle and then dissipate into wispy dots. Just give it a bit of texture in there. This one has a rectangle here with a triangle cut out. It's more of a collar. And I did 2 lines, train tracks, of stitching, like a Sailor Moon sailor collar. Oh, what happened to that? Is that it? I think that's it. Confused myself. It won't really matter. I'll put my diagonal hatching lines underneath. He's wearing a collared shirt. This one's a lot more of a professional moon than the other one. And then some buttons. It's a circle with a crescent moon on the edge. That gives it that three-dimensional look. I only had 3. Then 4 circles, like the die, 4 on a die. And an X to connect them. Sometimes I'll put some hatching on that crescent moon at the edge to give some shadow. And then run a line through the center for the shirt. That is, I actually think, all of the detail I ended up putting on them. So now I guess it's just playtime with some more pens. Let me grab the 0.5. Oh, do you know what else it was? It's so subtle, but there's this tiny striped line. Anywhere I felt like I wanted to just bolden up the edge, I would run another squiggly line on the border that kind of popped out a little bit and then disappeared back into the line. Wherever it doubled out, I would put this striped patterning. So it just thickens up the border a little bit. It's also a great way, if you've accidentally gone over the edge with one of your details, to kind of catch that mistake and put it back into the piece. So where can I see, like here, down here, I've got these little lines that I actually accidentally went over the edge with. If I add a little extra line there and then put my striped patterning in, I can capture that mistake into my drawing again. But I mean, it's not necessary. Just do it if you feel like it. It does add a little extra bit of subtle detail that I do like, especially up here in some more blank areas. I was going to say, there's not a lot going on up here, so you can add some extra detail, but I mean, when you really do look at it, there is a lot going on. There's about 600,000 lines around circles, but you know what I mean? Relative to the rest of the piece, this does look a little bit emptier. So there's so much going on down here. So I'll just add some of that. I do like a bow at the top here, but I think I might leave it. I will just extend the point of the moon to become super sharp and pointy. See, I really like this, but I didn't really think it was that Halloween-y. I think moons are, and I think a full moon is maybe a bit more Halloween-y, but I've done these kind of crescent moon profiles before. It's always a great way to kind of learn how to draw some of this profile because it's not a full face. And a lot of what people actually struggle with, funnily enough, is not this part of the profile. It's how the back of the head rolls into the neck and the ear, and then the jaw. People tend to really hate what I've noticed. They really don't like how it looks, and when they identify it, it's actually the back of the head shape, the skull, and the jaw. But this part is what people think is the hardest. So it's kind of funny because people feel like they have a lot of success drawing just this part, which I think you do. I think most people do find this easier when you isolate it. But when are we usually just drawing a profile on something with not the rest of the head? But these moons are a great way to do that because you can kind of capitalize on something that is actually, I find, the easiest part of the profile, which is the nose and the lips. So, all of that to say, I did want to include it in my Halloworkshop, but when all is said and done, I do take a really long time to sit and think and plan out and make sure that the collection of work at the end of the workshop is relative to why people might have joined the workshop. So if it's not super Halloween-y, I didn't want to try and fit that in for no reason. But this is why we've got these extra mile videos. So that if you do want to try it, you can do it. I think I even taught a page in 10 once upon a time that had the, what do you call it? The profiles. I think we did a whole stack of them. So if you're looking for that, there's probably a page in 10 video somewhere. I've got a whole playlist, so go check it there, of profiles. And then you'll be able to really nail down your profile here. I'm just using the 0.5 to add a bit of weight to some of the areas of the piece. I could get a bigger pen actually and do that. I really want to fill in these stars because I like the boldness of having these colored in. Even when I am coloring in though, I do still leave a little bit of white space. Like it's never fully blocked out, colored in black. There's always a little bit of an edge uncolored. I have a 10 and a 12 and an 8. Let's go 10. I'll just introduce that 10 in a few different places. I start with a bit of a light pressure and then ease into a heavier pressure, and then I'll ease up again. That way I can fade into the line and then fade back out again. It's a little bit of a control thing that you might need to practice at, but that's great. See how it adds just a really interesting extra dimension to that border? Really helps pop out those shapes, especially when we've got so much texture going on, we've got so many other lines going on. Sometimes you can lose the silhouette of the moon. And I'm just going to chase down one line. I usually skip each side. So if I choose the left side of each of these triangles is going to get that heavier angle. And that will just give it a nice bit of extra something. That's good. I really do think this would look great with the background painted in, but not even the whole background, like just a square edge of the background, and then you could leave these a little bit more open. I'm gonna get some watercolor. I'm gonna do that actually. I'll be back. Okay, got some of this set up. I'm gonna mask it off with some washi tape. And I don't want to do the entire thing. I mostly just want to focus on being able to put some watercolor here so I can get a nice glow. And obviously I want to leave the moons untouched. So I think if I can just, which doesn't have to be perfect, if I can just make a nice squared off area. What I'm trying to actually look for, just to clue you in my process, I'm imagining the block of color actually painted in, and I don't want there to be a huge chunk of it just anywhere. Like I want the color to all be in this area where there's a lot of detail, so it's really only highlighting this section. I feel like if I end up putting a lot of watercolor up here, I'm actually going to highlight how empty this space is, and I might actually want to put journaling up there or something, I don't know. I feel like that needs to be a little bit further over so I don't get too close to that moon edge. And then do I want to just keep it, do I want to keep it here or do I want to close it off even further? Oh, this is a hard decision. I feel like it has to keep both of those moons in. Maybe I'll do it like that. I could just paint it from the edge of the page to the edge of the page, but I think this will be good. And do you know what perfect color we can use for this? Moon Glow. One of my very first Daniel Smith watercolors. Do I have it in here? Yeah, that's Moon Glow. I was going to say, there's no way I would have taken it out. Just for old time's sake, I always got to keep it around. Oh, I'm just activating it first, actually. Put a bit of water in there, get it nice and juicy. And then what I want to do first is softly wet this page. I'm only going around these circles because I need to blend that area out. This paper, even though it can take wet media. Oh no, I forgot that was not a waterproof pen. Whoops, that's why I said use waterproof. And I literally even said, I probably won't do any water media with it. It's fine. It'll just be a little blurry. Actually, it's a really beautiful gray blur. I want to wet this part here just so I can blend that out easier because it's going to be the lightest color it is here. So if I start here and just do a nice light wash of it, I can start building up that intensity as I leave this area. but I want to work wet into wet so that it blends really softly. Oh, I accidentally went over some of that hair. That's okay. See how it just blends into that wet area? It's really nice and soft. If you take really pasty watercolor and go straight into the page, you will end up kind of staining that area of your page. But I think I was saying this paper is not watercolor paper. It's actually called drawing paper, and I don't really know how they've done it, but it's just not specifically watercolor paper, so I have to work with it a little bit carefully. It's thick cardstock-like paper, but I mean, they call it drawing paper. I don't know what the difference is, but I have noticed it doesn't take watercolor the same way that a watercolor paper will. It's a lot flatter and it pills a lot quicker, so I can't do too many washes with it. But I'm just wetting that area, and now I'm leaving the space where those two bright shining stars are. So as I go, I can get heavier and heavier since the light from those stars is fading out the further away we get. And I am being really uncareful. I'm not being too careful. I'm getting it everywhere. It's because this brush is big. I tried to get a brush that would fill some space, but I probably should have gone smaller because the nooks and crannies are small. It's okay. Watercolor's wild. You can't always control it. As long as you've pushed down your washi tape into the page, then you should get some nice crisp edges. And that'll be nice. So I'm just getting more and more watercolor concentrated into this part over here because there's less light from the stars shining over here, but I will pull more of it back over from time to time because I really only want to concentrate that glow just around the edge of those circles. I don't want it to be all white over here. I just need a glow there. If it ever gets a little too dry, just re-wet that area. It's great if it's a circle because you can just brush your paintbrush around in a circle shape and it will blend out for you. And the more water you use with the moon glow, the more of that separating effect you can get. Also, if you use a more textured paper, you can get a nice extra bit of separation. There we go. And the darkest edges will be over here. Will be the full strength of that color. If you want to introduce some extra texture, take some water on your brush and drop a water droplet or two into, you want a bit of a clean water droplet, you don't want any of your paint on it, but it doesn't have to be fresh water. Take that and drop it into the page and it will push away some of that pigment. You get these little blooms. A lot of the time people want a flatter effect, but especially when you've got this multicolor watercolor, like the multiple pigment watercolors, putting a little droplet of water and making the pigment separate is just really pretty. So I like to do that. People do it with salt as well. That will really push away some of the color and kind of bleach out some areas. But I think this will be good. I'm really happy with that. You can even see where all the droplets are. They've kind of turned blue. We'll see what happens when it all dries. Like I said, this isn't strictly watercolor paper, so the effect is a little bit different. But I'm going to dry this off and then heal it. And then I'll show you what it looks like. And there we go, all done. I accidentally didn't heat this side of the washi tape enough and pulled off some of my paper, which really frustrates me to no end, but what are you going to do? I love how crisp the edge looks over here though, so we'll just ignore that. You see some of the blossoming, the blooming. I've heard it called cauliflowering as well. Some of it's a little bit more obvious. If you let it dry naturally, it becomes a little bit more obvious. Or if you have cleaner water. Also, if you get a little bit of paper towel, like you just pull a little bit of your edge off and you dip it into, you can suck up some of that extra watercolor, get a stronger effect. Salt is a stronger effect than that as well, but for all intents and purposes, I think it looks great. You can still see that kind of bleaching effect that it had, some of these harder edges. I like it to look really intense and then put a little bit of a star in there, here and there, but these stars I'm going to let be the feature of this show. I could do a little bit of white watercolor, not white watercolor, white gel pen, and just do some dots right where that watercolor starts to hit that edge, just to give it a little bit of a glowy, twinkly texture, or just put straight up glitter on my page. I would love to do that actually. Where's my glitter? It's not handy. How could it not be handy? That's always here. I must have moved it. I always need my glitter. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there actually, because that streak of light is going to come in and ruin my video if I keep going. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for playing along if you did. Remember to use the hashtags listed in the description box below. Hopefully I haven't forgotten to do that. And I can see your work on Instagram mainly is where I go and look for it all. So love to see what you get up to. Hope you had another great week in the Halloworkshop if you're joining us over there. There's still time to join. We're only on week 2. We have 7 full weeks to go through, and yeah, lots of fun lessons still to go. Check my Instagram. You'll always see updates over there. But I'll love and leave you there. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.